Yes, this is Carolina. I just have a couple questions for you because I saw a video and it's had the Grantsville Police Department on it, and it was featuring Sergeant Creek and Officer Torres.
Okay.
Okay, and what they said in the video was kind of disturbing because what they did was they went onto this man's private property and they didn't have a warrant and they didn't have probable cause, but they detained him for over 30 minutes inside the back of a vehicle in handcuffs when he was the owner of the property. And then what she said was the reason why she could do that is she said that because somebody made a call and said that there was possibly a burglary going on at that location, that gave her the ability to be able to enter the property without a warrant, even though she didn't witness anything going on, and like without probable cause and without a warrant. The call gave her the ability to enter his property, and she said that because she saw him outside the house, because of something called the open field doctrine, he was obligated to give his identification to her. I just thought that was wrong. Am I wrong or right or?
So, I'm not sure what case you're referring to without a case number or a report or something.
Okay, the property was owned by Ed Lane, and it was his grandson that was on the property. His name is Terry, and he was outside with his friends on the property, and somebody called in and said, hey, there's a burglary going on down there. So Creek and Torres arrived and drove through the gate, up the driveway to the house, and took the grandson and put him in handcuffs and put him in the back of a patrol car because he didn't want to say what his name was. And they said they had the right to be there because somebody gave them a call about a possible burglary.
Anytime a crime is being investigated, it is required that if you are in the area where the crime may be being committed, they give your name. That is a state law.
I looked up the state laws and it doesn't say that. It says that they have to have reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime before they can get the identification. So she didn't see him doing anything but just standing on his property.
That in itself, though, with her obligation to go and investigate this crime that could be happening.
Yeah.
On that property that is quote unquote being investigated as a burglary,
right,
does have to say his name.
But she entered without a warrant. There was no probable cause because she even admitted that she never saw him doing any type of burglary activities. So if you're telling me that a police officer can just drive along a road and they see somebody picking strawberries, they can stop them and ask them what their name is? Because they got a call that place was being burglarized?
If they're on the property that is being burglarized, yes.
But if there's no burglary happening, just somebody called and said there's a possible burglary going on.
It has to be fully investigated. So if the officer has reasonable suspicion to believe that the crime is being committed.
Okay, that's right. They have to have reasonable suspicion. So if they don't have that, the person is not obligated to identify. Is that correct?
She had reasonable suspicion, yes.
Of a crime. Okay. What would that be? Somebody calling in and saying there was a burglary going on?
Yes. So she had the obligation to go and investigate that thoroughly.
So I could just call you guys anytime I want to and say, hey, I think there's a burglary going on across the street. And you guys can go to that house without a warrant and without anything, just my phone call, and go in there and identify everybody standing there?
Your phone call gives her reasonable suspicion to go and investigate it. So if you give her information that says, hey, I think somebody's breaking into the car across the street.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She has the obligation to go to that car.
Right.
And identify that person.
But doesn't she have to witness it instead of just a phone call?
Absolutely not. She does not have to.
So people with phones have a lot of power. They can just go call stuff in on everybody, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I think you better talk with a supervisor. I need a supervisor to call me because citizens don't have that kind of power to just say, oh, I think they're burglarizing, and that gives you the power to go onto their property and identify them just from a phone call. I don't think so. I think you have to have the reasonable suspicion of the crime. You have to see them burglarizing. It just can't come from a phone call. Who knows if that person calling is just a crazy crackpot?
No, I understand what you're saying, but because she had reasonable suspicion that a crime was being committed at that address, and that person was on that property, she has the obligation to go and identify that person.
No, you're wrong, and that's why I'm calling, because a phone call does not give you probable cause to identify somebody.
It gives permission to go and investigate the crime.
Yes, and then she must have reasonable suspicion of the crime. She must witness some sort of burglary activity going on. She must see them taking screens off windows or throwing a rock through the door or whatever. But just a phone call alone does not give police permission to go identify people. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Okay, well, do you have the case number?
I don't have the case number. It happened 9 days ago, and the property was the property of Ed Lane. And he was not arrested. He was let go after spending 30 minutes in the back of a patrol car for refusing to identify. And during the conversation, she did say to him, she did not witness him burglarizing anything. But then she twisted it around and she said, because of the open field doctrine, because she saw him standing on his property, he might be trespassing. So that's why she needed his identification. So does the open field doctrine allow you to identify people standing on their own property?
Well, she didn't know that he was an owner of that property.
Right. So how are you supposed to do that without violating people's rights? How do you like if the person is not going to identify to you, that's his right. Right? Correct? So
investigated.
Yeah, if the person's not going to give their name, then that's their right not to identify themselves. So the investigator, which is you guys, has to figure out a different way to find out what's going on. So that would mean that you would have to go get a warrant or do a thorough investigation and question some more people. If the guy doesn't want to give up his name, that's his right.
Correct. So what you can do is she actually will be on shift at 5 o'clock if you want to call and talk to her.
Yeah, I wanna talk to a supervisor. When can I call back?
You can talk to her at 5 o'clock. She'll be back at 5 o'clock.
I'd rather talk to your supervisor. Who would that be?
And then you have our lieutenant.
Okay, what's the lieutenant's name?
Lieutenant
Greco. I think everybody there is going to need some more training because because even you thought that a phone call would give you probable cause to identify somebody. You gave me the example of the car burglary.
I didn't say it gives you probable cause. I said it gives you reasonable suspicion to investigate the crime.
Right, but before you can get the name, you have to articulate what crime they're committing. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. That's why I want to call and complain, because she didn't have any of that. She just had a phone call.
What you can do is when you talk to Greco, you can put in a complaint at however you would like.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. You'll have to call Grantsville PD Police Station.
Okay, I have that. I think I have that phone number. It was the one I called. It's 435-884-6881.
If that's who you called dispatch. Let me grab Grantsville's
number
for you.
Well, that number gave me dispatch, so that's, I think, okay. What was your name again? I forgot.
Officer McNeil.
Okay. How long have you been a police officer?
4 years.
Okay. You know, Terry versus Ohio is the one that gives you that reasonable articulable suspicion thing. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, I mean, and I don't think you guys should get mad or angry or detain people just because they want to, you know, they want to exercise their rights.
No. We never want to cross the line when it comes to their rights. Absolutely. Like, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, if he's on a property where she's investigating as a burglary, he have the obligation to tell his name and why he's there.
No, she has to be able to see. She has to have reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime. If he's just standing there, right, just standing there, she can't identify him. But if he's breaking a window or trying to kick the door in, that would be evidence of a burglary, right? That's when she can identify him.
So you're going to want to call the 435-884-6881.
Do you not understand what I'm saying? I mean, that would be for you too. I mean, you gave me the example of the car burglary, right? Well, you'd have to witness some sort of burglary activity before you got that person's name, and not just rely on a phone call.
Oh yeah, maybe Lieutenant Greco can definitely explain it to you differently.
Yeah, and then I think he's going to have to explain it to you, because I don't think you would understand either.
Okay. I will have you talk to Lieutenant Greco.
Well, maybe we should have the district attorney come in and explain to you the laws, because you guys are violating Fourth Amendment right on video, and it's going to be nationwide.
Okay, then I would suggest calling Lieutenant Greco and putting in a complaint.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Have a good afternoon or day.